2. We're going to be talking about a Jaedong and Stardust. Who makes exceptions? Who makes them? Basically, who's basically the topic. The way it started is Stardust and Jaedong have been playing from Korea, which is against the rules for the qualifiers, and it also happens that Stardust isn't in Master League, which is in the rules to be allowed to play in the qualifier. His account is in gold. But of course, apparently they've been in talk with Blizzard, and so Kim Fan came out and she said like that they've been in talks, and if they've been cleared internally from like they're allowed to do that, but it wasn't like publicized, and like no one knew that exceptions were allowed. And maybe Chris, you want to explain a little bit better the situation?
Yeah, so well, no, I'll let someone else go first, and then I'll give perspective.
All right, PengWin, as someone who's also contacted Blizzard, since you're currently in Switzerland?
Yeah.
Yeah, so go ahead.
Let me just start by, so I'm going to preface my whole explanation of what I think happened with whether or not exceptions should be given. I'm not arguing whether that's correct or incorrect. I just want to, I'm just going to start by explaining what I think happened with Stardust. With Jaedong, I don't know. As far as I know, he's been living in America, so I don't really think, and he's been cleared for, he's had his visa for a while, so as far as I'm concerned, I don't think Jaedong has an excuse for if he doesn't have a Master League account. I'm not sure if he does or doesn't. Stardust, on the other hand, some people don't think this is correct anyway, but I think what happened with Stardust is that he got his visa. I know his visa was not finalized when I left Korea, which was like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. So my theory is that Stardust did not actually have his visa until the ladder was locked. So therefore he wasn't able to, he decided not to ladder in case he didn't end up having his visa on time. Whether or not that's correct or not, up for discussion. But that's what I think happened with Stardust. Now, with everyone else, in regards to the whole situation, I think the biggest issue is just the rules in general, because the rule is so drastic, it basically states that you have to play every single ladder game on your home region.
No,
which is that's the way the rule is phrased. That's the way the rule is phrased in the rulebook. It says you have to, as far as I'm aware, it says that you have to play all ladder games on the server on which the account is owned. So if you're each account has a country associated with it. So mine has Switzerland associated with it, and that has to be associated with the region.
Can you link that rule?
I never heard of that.
Yeah, I think that's because every player plays multiple regions.
Yeah. But that's the thing. That's my whole point, though, because the point is everyone plays other regions, right? So.
But I don't think that's a rule. I think the rule is you have to play a certain amount of games on the server that you want to qualify, and you have to have at least masters, which is basically guaranteeing that fact that you have to play a certain amount of games. But as far as it's saying that you have to play every single game on one server, I've never heard of that.
I seem that was in the original one for sure. I'm not sure if it got through. Let me just double check quickly.
Okay.
Jesus, it's such a long handbook.
I don't think you need 200 games anymore.
You don't. But that was only
so it's just masters.
Anyway. Yeah, Master League. That's what I needed anyway.
Yeah.
So wait a minute.
Okay.
Yeah,
while you look for that, MorroW, what is your opinion
about them being allowed?
Or? Yes.
Well,
okay, I got it actually. I got it, guys. Okay. Participants are required to play all tournaments and ladder games from the country listed on the account during the tournament season. Blizzard will check IP connections at its discretion. So yeah, that was wrong.
All tournament
you have to play
games.
and ladder, but it says
Can
tournament
you link
and ladder.
it or copy paste it or something?
Let me see if I can. It's on page 6 under BattleNet account verification. I'll link it in Skype. And actually, somebody linked it to me as well.
participants are required to play all tournaments and ladder games from the country listed on the account during tournament season. Blizzard will check a peep. Yeah.
So that's technically a
that
rule.
That's retarded.
Of course it is, but like that's the thing. Everyone gets exceptions for that rule, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then it becomes very questionable if they don't give exceptions to Stardust and Jaedong. So the root problem is the existence of that rule, because everybody else is given exceptions to that rule. So then you have to start giving exceptions. Like that's my
No. Because this rule never, like, I don't think anybody knew about this rule until right now. People weren't making Reddit threads over this rule at all. No one had a problem with this rule. No one was like, exclude Jaedong and Stardust because they have played games on Korea and not played every single game on North America. That was never a problem. People were never writing about that. They're writing about the fact that they're living, practicing in Korea. It's apparently it's just a standard rule to follow. If a player is traveling outside of the country, they just have to let Blizz or ESL know.
Yeah.
Then it's not a problem.
So you, like, basically what ends up happening is that you need to contact Blizzard to get an exception to this rule and to any related rules. So the issue is, like, Kim Fon said that they were working closely with Stardust and Jaedong, so I'm pretty certain that at least Stardust, I don't know about Jaedong at all, his situation, but with Stardust, I'm pretty certain that what ended up happening is that he asked for an exception on that rule and they decided to grant it. Whereas, like, the drama arose because SWS did not get an exception, and I think that SWS did not get an exception because he didn't ask for one until, like, the day before. You have to give them time. Like, when I applied for mine, it took a week and a half to get the exception approved. Like, if he wrote Farside, like, 2 days before the qualifier expecting an exception, he can't expect to get that. Yeah. It takes time to go through the proper channels.
The problem is that most players are, like even me, I didn't read that rule ever, to be honest. And I feel like MorroW never heard of that rule. He never read it either. And it's obviously not a very enforced rule because all North Americans play on Europe, NA/or Korea, right? So that yeah, I don't know. But it's just really stupid because a lot of players are never going to read that rule. They're never going to ask for the exception. But at the same time, Stardust did, Jaedong did. It comes down to just a really shitty situation because I believe that you're only allowed to pick one region for the whole year. So Stardust and Jaedong picked WCS and A. Correct?
You're
Can
only
you
allowed
switch
to pick
regions?
One. Yes, only if you don't qualify, though.
Yeah. So they picked NA. They may or may not have had visas for Season 1, but they didn't move, so they didn't play, right? And now we're in Season 2. They both got their visas and may or may not be living in America, but soon will be. They send all their information to Blizzard/ESL, and then it's like, okay, they're not technically living here, but at the same time, they haven't technically qualified. Should we let them play or should we not? And I know for at least Jaedong's side, he's like, if he's not already in America, he's like, they have the house set up, they have his itinerary booked, and I think it's the same for Stardust, to be honest. So they're like going to be there by time Challenger is to be played, or as far as I know, they're going to be disqualified. And it would be like a really shitty thing, not only for like all of StarCraft and the fans, but as far as for those individuals as well, to give up not playing in Korea for the first season, and then almost being there for the second season, and then not being allowed as well. And then all of a sudden you have these big contenders that, you know, could have or did qualify last year for BlizzCon, and all of a sudden they can't even participate at all. Like, if you don't play in Season 1 and Season 2 of WCS or GSL or SSL, you're probably not going to qualify for BlizzCon unless you, like, win big for the final season plus other events. So it's a really shitty situation. I understand why people are getting mad because the rules are not clearly understood from the majority of the community. Even pro gamers that should know them like the back of their hand, they don't know it either. And then what the community generally understood is not the way it's being applied from their perspective. But at the same time, they have been doing right, Stardust and Jaedong. They have been doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I think the problem here is that the fact that, like, exceptions exist for some of these rules make it very difficult to justify, like, not giving exceptions for certain situations. I think, like, I'm benefiting from one of these exceptions, But I do feel like for going forward, I think the best course of action would be to just not give any exceptions. I think from Blizzard's standpoint and from a fairness standpoint, I think that actually makes a lot of sense.
I think what happened is they rushed out the book, and some of these rules were really fucking stupid, like the one where you're supposed to play on the same server and then you have to let them know. Because from that moment on, there was no way to track everyone. So there was going to be exceptions, and they weren't going to follow the rule book by the letter. And so from that moment on, it just became very stupid. And so Jaedong and Stardust being allowed NNA, $5,000 for a visa is nothing to them when they can make so much more. Sure, the community is upset because one, sure they'll bring good games, and some of their fans are happy, but the rest are not happy because we're already struggling. We have 5 slots taken from Koreans when we have 8. So that leaves 3 American or Canadian heroes. So the community is not happy about that because they wanted region log. They started enjoying region log. They they like Peg. They like the EU players. And so for Stardust and Jaedong to not be contributing, they had in between season 1 and 2 to move. Of course, it takes time, it takes money, and they weren't ready, and they're going to be there for Challenger. But it seems like they're not. It seems like they could have done more, and it's upset. It's normal for the community to not be happy about the way it's going. MorroW, do you agree with HuK and PengWin on that?
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but I just want to, the general outlook from my perspective, even though I'm a North American Premier player and I'm going to have to probably compete with one, if not both of these players at some point, is the rules were really, they were not greatly written. They weren't horrible either, but they were written with the best intentions. And then the community and players' perception of those rules were seen as very standard, black and white. Unless they're there and they're living there permanently and they're playing, then they shouldn't be allowed to play. Where there have been stipulations, the rulebook wasn't changed last night or something. It's been written in there, but no one's really read it in depth. Stardust and Jaedong have done what they were supposed to do for the most part, and they've already missed 1 whole season of WCS. Disqualifying them now, while it is seen to some degree just from what we have perceived them, including myself, it's shitty to them at the same time. And I'm not saying I think Jaedong and Stardust should be disqualified or not disqualified. I'm just saying perspective-wise, they've already sacrificed 1 season, sacrificed another season, and they really, it's 2/3 of their career of this year for StarCraft 2, and they just can't compete almost at all besides foreign tournaments like DreamHack and ESL, which are more rarely seen anyways. WCS is such a big part of every player's career. So
can I just say one more thing? Oh, sorry, finish up first.
No, that's fine. Go.
So I touched on this earlier when we were talking about the Total Biscuit drama. I feel the best way to deal with this is just region lock through citizenship rather than visas, and then you can put in some exceptions for people who have lived in the country for 2 or 3 more years, something like that. But I think because the issue is if you don't allow for people to play from other countries, even if they're citizens, then you start screwing over people like Iagas, who lives in the Root House. You screw over people like State, who lives in Korea, and stuff like that. And it's no matter what you do, in some way you're going to screw somebody over. And I feel the best way, with this region lock, that is. So I feel I also don't like how it's only kind of half-assed region lock for America. So this is why I feel it would be really good to region lock based on citizenship rather than location and visas. Because State, for example, he lives in Korea, he wants to play WCS America. Nobody has a problem with State playing WCS America because he's an American citizen, and they shouldn't have a problem with that. But if he's living in Korea, he's technically in the same in the same rule violations that Stardust and Jaedong are. And the same is true for Iagas playing in WCSC from the Root House. So I feel the best way to deal with this is to just make it a citizenship region lock rather than where you're living at the time.
I wanna go back to the rule book. Destiny has an opinion about it. We'll get him into the call to finish up this subject so that it's not a big circle jerk of one opinion.
I guess we take my opinion another day then.
Yes. Yes, it's on the calendar tomorrow. Thursday at 4.
Okay.
Poor bastard.
Yeah. You gotta fight the right battles.
MorroW is gonna, after all this time we've just abused MorroW so much, he's gonna leave. He's gonna start his own talk show. It's gonna be called MorroW's Opinion. And MorroW's gonna end up making like the biggest fucking talk show to everyone. He's gonna get the last laugh. It turns out he always had the smartest things to say. We just never let him speak.
Well, while Destiny takes time to join, why don't you tell us your opinion, MorroW?
But I think like I don't have a very strong opinion. Just like HuK said, like people didn't actually read this whole rule book or know it like inside out.
Yeah.
So-
Takes time to join. Why don't
Well,
hey,
can you hear me?
Steven, we can hear the stream.
I think
Okay.
I'm hearing myself now.
Yeah, you don't like it, do you?
I thought it was Nathanias interrupting me, but it's actually Destiny.
That's what we have to hear every day, man. It's brutal. I'm telling you.
All right, Steven, what's your take on this? Well, now we can't hear anything.
Can you hear me talk? Or do you just hear
Yeah,
yourself?
No, now we can. Now we can. You don't like
I
it,
thought-
do
But
you?
you hear yourselves a lot, I
Yeah,
guess?
we still
Yeah,
hear
yeah.
the stream.
What's going on?
Yeah, I think he's on 2 computers now, so he's...
Big
Okay, wait.
mistake.
Oh.
Is it gone now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. So like this is like, so if you have an exception to a rule, right? Okay, I'm just like asking questions now, right? So like usually like a rule, there'll be like a rule where it's like, hey, like if you're so we need your mom and dad's signature in order to send you on a field trip, right? You have to get your mom and dad's signature so that both parents are on board, and then they send you the field trip. And then you go home and you get him, or let's say your parents are dead, right? So, or like your mom is dead or deceased or something, and you go to school and you're like, hey, I can only get my dad's signature because of this. Then they give you an exception for the rule. And it's like, okay, well that makes sense. Like there has to be an exception, otherwise it's not really fair, right? But if you like, if you get your mom's signature, but you don't want to tell your dad, and then you go to school and you're like, well, I got my mom's signature, but I don't think my dad would like actually let me do it, so I didn't ask him. Like the teacher wouldn't give you an exception there. She would be like, well, I mean, no, like the entire point was so that both parents were okay with it for liability, right? Like, so you can't just give an exception because somebody asked for it, right? It seems kind of weird here that like it seems like the entire purpose of that rule being written was to encourage people to foster growth on the local ladders and the local communities. So to have somebody get into WCS after it's been region locked, and they haven't played any ladder games in that region, and they haven't lived in the region, what's the point of the exception? Like, it seems like that's like a clear-cut, well, I mean, like, the whole reason this rule was written was to foster growth in this region. You didn't do it, so why would we give you an exception? Right? It seems like kind of weird, no?
The analogy you did, I didn't understand at all. But
Why not? What don't you understand about it? Well, what don't you
it was
understand
just
about it?
really, really weird.
It's not weird at all.
It was. I'm telling you, I didn't understand it, and I felt it was weird. Your last sentence.
Exception for something. The reason why you're providing an exception. Okay. The entire idea is that if you provide an exception.
What's going on over
What?
there?
You're lagging a little bit.
You're
it's
like
weird.
lagging a lot a bit.
Am I really?
Yeah. I understand
really
what
hard.
you're saying. Your analogy I didn't like and didn't understand that well, but your last sentence makes sense. If the whole point is to foster growth in a region, and then they haven't been contributing to that, but then they can come over and compete, I agree that the rules were badly written for that to happen, but there are, like, it's all coming down to what Blizzard wrote and whether this is technically breaking it or not. It's a shitty situation for both sides, because like you say, they haven't been in an A, they haven't been practicing in an A, they haven't been contributing to that ladder or raising player skills to where they are. But at the same time, they haven't been reaping the benefits from it either. Like, they weren't in WCS Season 1. They weren't getting money for that. They've already sacrificed the first part of their this year. And now they're coming over, they have their visas, they have their tickets, they have where they're going to live, and by time challenger, they're either going to be, playing on an A and contributing, or they won't be able to compete as far as I know and understand. Not sure if he's still on the call or not.
Steven? Yeah. What's up?
I'm in the call. Are we is your Skype getting fucked up, desRow?
No, it's fine. He was just a little laggy for a second, but it seems fine now.
Oh. Well, yeah, I mean, I just...
Did
Oh no, the stream, the
Good.
chat is like going crazy. Apparently, it was like really hard to understand anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't know. I just like, I guess my question is just it seems kind of fucked up that why do they get an exception? I guess is a question. Regardless of ignoring what the Blizzard rules are or whatever was anything wrote, why would you give an exception here when it seems like they circumvented every possible thing that the rule was designed to prevent from happening, right? To have somebody qualify in who's practiced in another region, laddered in that region, and then lived in that region. Now we're going to let them qualify in. Like, what's the purpose of the exception?
I think sometimes Blizzard deals case-by-case basis, and it seems like they have like a soft heart. So they're like, oh, you guys got fucked Season 1 because your paperwork didn't go through. You've already put down $5,000 for the visa. We'll just let you have a free pass for now since you're already so deep and committed.
Am I still laggy? Did
Yeah,
you
you're-
hear everything I said or no?
No,
Am I
well,
still laggy?
yeah, no, we heard some of it. We
Okay.
understood your point, but then you walked away when
Okay.
Destiny spoke. Do you want to repeat
Yeah.
yourself, Destiny?
Or I guess my question was just I just don't understand the exception. Just seems weird in this case. So because they paid a lot last season, but they fucked up and they didn't get their visa in time, now they magically get in this. I don't know. It just seems weird. Like if you
My
isn't
point
the visa thing is on you. Like that's your
My point
responsibility
is
to get your
that-
visa shit.
Yeah,
like,
and they have it now, and they're now going to play the second season, and they're going to contribute now. But it's not like Blizzard said that, to play for WCS Season 1 this year, you had to be in North America last year playing and contributing. If they're going to play Season 2, they need to come and contribute now. That's the point Blizzard's trying to make.
The issue that I have with the current system, and I feel like the reason that this is a problem with Stardust and Jaedong in the first place, is that if they were to not allow Stardust and Jaedong to play despite all of this, they would also, by that logic, have to disqualify or disallow State and Iagas from playing, because they're also not in their home regions. So, like, it becomes an issue where somebody is being screwed up no matter what happens. So, like, the way it is right now, they have to, if they're letting State and Iagas play, they have to let Stardust and Jaedong play, because they're basically violating the same rule.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, that's why it comes back around to it being the way the region lock is
But
is
what
laid
you mean?
out.
Like Iagas, he lives in America.
Yeah, he's playing Southeast Asia.
Oh, so he's playing like.
the C qualifiers.
well, wait, why is he allowed
Oh,
to do
he's playing
that?
the C qualifier. Yeah, that's kind of I get
That's
your
kind of
point
fucked
there.
up.
I thought he
lives
was
in Korea
playing
and he's playing
WCS
America.
NA
Like, State is
qualifier.
literally the same situation as Stardust.
No,
Yeah.
the,
Oh,
the
wait,
way
why-
no. The way it works as far as that is if you're a hardcore citizen of a region, you can live anywhere you want to live. You can practice
how it
wherever
sh-
you want to.
The
So,
thing
like,
is, like,
if
that's how it
State-
should work, but it's not how it's outlined in the rulebook.
Well, no, that's not how it should work at all. That's the whole point of the rules being. I assume that was the whole point of the rules being the way they were. You want to strengthen the ladder region of where you're going to compete. That was the entire idea behind forcing someone to have a Masters account there, X number of games, or whatever. Right? I thought that was the point. Am I mistaken?
I'm lagging, so I don't know how much this is going to get through. It's more about
Yeah, you're lagging right now.
Try turning off
stopping
your webcam.
Koreans
Try
from the.
Okay, and then talk.
Okay, does it
Yeah,
Does it work
sounds
better now?
Yeah.
Okay. The biggest thing is last year, pro players had a problem, especially with Koreans practicing, training, whatever, in WCS, coming over, winning, going back to Korea, training, practicing, rinse, repeat until BlizzCon's done. That's why the rules were implemented. As far as I understood it, and what players were doing. So now the Koreans want to play Season 2. They didn't play Season 1. They have their visas. They're willing to move over. They're going to practice on NA ladder. And if they don't, by time Challenger comes up, they won't be able to play. Did you guys
What's
hear
the-
that or no?
Yeah. So what's the difference between what Iagas is doing now, or State? So State goes to Korea, practices in Korea, then tries to qualify for NA and then come back to play for NA? Or Iagas lives in SCA, moves to North America to practice for, I'm assuming he probably plays in Korea ladder because he lives in California, and then he practices there, and then what, he's going to go back to Australia to fuck them up? It seems kind of like the opposite.
I guess as far as no one on C plays on C. ever.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that was the whole.
So
I
the
thought
C
that was
server
the whole
players
point of all
play on
these
mostly
rules.
Korea or NA anyways. Like I said, the whole point was to
I thought
stop.
the point of all these rules was to keep people playing in their own ladders, to strengthen their own ladders. That's why you needed... I thought that was the whole point of all of these rules. Otherwise, what's the point of any of this? This seems like a huge waste of time.
I think it, like I said, the overall message from what I understood as a pro player is to stop Koreans practicing living there and coming over. It's not such a problem for white guys. I agree with you. The rules are poorly written. There's a lot of contradictory things in there, and it's not, you know, upheld as much as it should be. And a lot of the things overlap and like don't make sense. I agree 100% with you on that. I'm saying the overall message and moving forward from here is that what needs to be enforced is if you're playing for a region that you're not a citizen of, you need to be in that region, playing, living, practicing, contributing to that ladder. Now, Stardust and Jaedong obviously haven't been, but if they're going to compete in Season 2, by time challenge... And that's a problem for Korea. What, can you guys hear me or no? I'm seeing funny faces.
You cut up at the end.
Yeah, could you repeat that?
The problem is Koreans, not white guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the reason why a lot of people are upset is because they didn't want it to become like last year, as you were saying, like Koreans just fucking flying over, grabbing their cash and then going home again. Like that's what people wanted to avoid. Like rulebook or not, like nobody gives a fuck about the rulebook. They want to see the results. It's like so you see, like
I'm gonna stand in for
Stardust and Jaedong, like they didn't even play games on the NA server. Now they're gonna come over and play the season. But
let me stand in for
I think
the
that's
average...
why people are upset in a way.
So let me stand in for the average, like, uninformed Twitch guy, okay? Because I haven't been following this as closely as you guys have. What MorroW just said sounded exactly like what should have happened. Like, how is Jaedong and Stardust coming over here to playing Challenger or whatever now? Like, how does this help NA at all? It seems like the exact same shit that happened all of last year. What's the difference? They're not going to come over here and ladder on NA unless there's like a minimum number of games or whatever. They just have to get masters. They're going to spend.
You have to be masters. It's just
okay. So they're going to play 40 games to get masters and then just continue grinding games in Korea.
Yeah, but that's what I'm agreeing with you on as far as the rules are poorly written, because like how do you this is something I discussed with other pro players and I also discussed with Blizzard is like, where do you draw that line? Do you require like a certain amount of games? And then what if they still they need 500 games over X amount of time, but then they just cheese every time? It's like it's an insanely hard thing to implement. It's an easy thing to say, like, if you're going to come to NA, we want you to invest in that scene. It's a whole nother thing to actually make that viable, because even NA players don't practice on NA.
Yeah. Well, what's wrong with the 400 or 500 game requirement? That seems like a decent...
Because then what if they're just like, well, this is going to be shitty practice anyway, so I guess I'm just going to 10 pull every other game, and then on the other hand, I'll just flip a coin and go 3 hatch before pull, and of course I'll lose a bunch of games.
I mean, if you required 300 wins or something, and somebody wants to literally waste 500 games cheesing every time, wouldn't that negatively impact them? Don't you think there'd be some incentive for the player to actually practice? If you're gonna have to get 300 wins, if you want to flip coins, would you really want to grind out 600 coin flips?
But this is you're talking from the perspective of us as white foreign players that aren't as good as Koreans. Where a Korean, sure, maybe they'll play some legit games, but they're still going to want to blaze through that number and get to practice on Korea as fast as possible. And then you're gonna implement the same rules for every player. So then you're going to say even white people in the same region are going to have to play in the same amount of games when they don't even want to, and they want to play on Korea or they want to play on Europe.
Yeah, but
it's such a hard thing to implement.
The reason why they don't want to is because every good foreigner plays on fucking Korea anyway. NA has
or Europe or
Europe. Yeah. There were actually a handful of decentish NA players, but all of them were laddering in fucking Europe or Korea. So it was you never got to play any on the ladder. You just run into MBQ2 and map hackers the entire time. So I mean, this is a totally separate discussion, right? On how to implement the scene. It just seems right now the rules serve absolutely no one. The rules aren't accomplishing anything at all. So all they're doing is fucking some people over, and then just making everybody else kind of butthurt.
No, I agree. The rules are very badly written.
So what's the alternative
in general?
Go ahead. Sorry.
You can't, like, in my head, is despite being, like I said, I'm going to have to compete against Jaedong. I'm going to have to compete against Stardust if they qualify. I'm the 6th position out of 8. Obviously, those 2 players are probably going to be picked last. These are potential people that I'm going to have to play that are a lot harder than I would usually have to play. But at the same time, you can't disqualify them if they get visas, they're willing to move over, they have their flights booked. They're going to be living in NA by time Challenger starts.
All right, so I think, first of all, any major changes to the way region locker things are done, they cannot be done this year. They have to be done next year because... Right,
but that was the whole point of this year. How many...
Of course. Like, this year they fucked up, though. Like, they fucked up, and at this point, if they change the rules, they're, like, really hardcore fucking other people over. And... So I feel like, first of all, I don't think it's fair to change the rules in the middle of the year. I think they have to wait till next year, which is a shitty situation, but it's the best.
That's like so opinion. Bad. Like
it is, but it's better than fucking people over really hard. Like
this is like the guy that saves up to go and buy condoms after accidentally having like his 7th mistaken child. Like, okay, well, not like we already had like a whole year of super fucked WCS, and then this was supposed to be like finally things are back on track. We finally have good region locking, and now it's, well, next year, hopefully, maybe we'll get the rules rewritten again, and then maybe that'll, like, holy fuck. Like really?
Yeah. There's a problem with Blizzard. If we look at this year, they let 4GG in because they got rid of all the European Koreans, but they said if you've been here since 2013, we'll let you play. And if we look at NA, I think one of the biggest reason it's not citizenship is because of Polt. You know, he's been in NA for so long. But one of the perks of being a Korean living in NA or in Europe is that it's so much cheaper for you or your team to attend any foreign events, and you'll make so much more money in foreign events than you will in WCS unless you win the big pot. So I think what the alternative to this whole mess of the Koreans not contributing to the NA ladder would just be to fuck them over and do citizenship for next year, because because it took 3 years to get to right now, and right now still isn't working out the way everyone wants it to, except like the very fanatic fans of the Koreans and the Koreans themselves. I don't know if you guys think next year real citizenship region lock would be the way to go.
Well, what I would suggest is that first of all, I would suggest citizenship, which I've said a bunch of times.
Yes, you've said that.
I would not be opposed to like another rule saying that if you've lived in the region for 3+ years, then you can play in the region as well, because that prevents people from moving over from Korea and just taking money and doing what Jaedong and Stardust are doing. That prevents that, but it also doesn't screw over the people like Polt who legitimately live in America and have lived there for a long time and have established themselves in that region. So I think that would be fair. And I also wouldn't be opposed to a 200 wins per season thing, because, like, sure, they might cheese every single game, which is shitty for them. But at the same time, like, I mean, technically I can just, like, play all of my normal games on ladder cheesing anyway. Like, it's a choice they can make. And, I mean, it's, in the end, there's no way to regulate that. But I feel like forcing them to play 200 wins is a good idea. It should be wins, not games, because then you can find a loophole because there's no demotions anymore. You just get masters and then leave 500 games. But, yeah, I think citizenship with an exception for people who've lived there for 3+ years and a minimum of 200 games, 1+ Master League would be fine.
What about you, Chris?
So
Go ahead,
PengWin,
Morrow.
like,
It's your turn.
Yeah, shut the fuck up. Citizenship, you mean like that they're allowed to live there, or that they...
No, citizenship is if they have a passport from that country.
Yeah, you're like Swedish.
So they are
They are from
right
that country.
Yeah.
They don't have to live there like that, because if it's citizenship,
she
then
means,
Iagas
like
can
that.
play from, like, Iagas can live in the root house and play Southeast Asia. State can live in Korea and play North America. Like, that's fine. They just
So
have to
like
be from
Koreans
the
wouldn't be able to...
Yes.
Yeah, unless they marry
Yeah.
a white girl or a girl
Yeah.
from the US.
Okay.
Or go
Well,
through
that
the, like,
makes a lot of
the
sense. Like, I think the
citizenship
bottom
process.
line is just, I think everyone just don't want, like, fucking Stardust and Jaedong coming over and just cash grabbing, like
Yeah.
other Koreans were doing last year. Like, how you go about that doesn't really matter to me or to anyone, I think. It's just as long as you fix the issue, and I think that's why so many people are upset, because we're, like, so happy that, oh, finally we get the WCS we've been waiting for. And then, you know, this shit happens again, that it pops up
and they get exceptions to the rule for it, which is entirely what the rule was designed to prevent, was shit like this. And then this exactly happens.
Yeah, like when they have the new rules in place, they should absolutely not give exceptions. Like that's causing a lot of problems, and I'm saying that as somebody who's benefiting from one.
I'm trying to view it from Blizzard's perspective, and I agree the rules are really shittily written. And as a pro gamer, it hurts me that these players compete. When they first started discussing this, I always pushed and wanted full region lock citizenship from the get-go. But at this point, we're almost like halfway through the year, Season 2 starting soon. They've already invested in the visas. I know it's really shitty, and I agree with you guys on that, and the rules are very poorly written. But at this point, to disqualify Stardust and Jaedong and say, like, you can't compete, when they bought plane tickets, they're willing to move, they you know, gone through the visa process, they haven't played Season 1. I'm not saying it's correct, and I'm not saying it's right, but at this point, should we make a stand and like fucking boycott and say like Jaedong shouldn't be allowed to play and Stardust shouldn't be allowed to play and basically ruin their year of competing over this? I don't think that's right.
In my opinion, like they like it doesn't take a lot of Koreans to like destroy the spirit of, you know,
Hey, man,
WSS America or like
they're coming
seeing
to
the best
NA.
foreigner. I don't want to see like fucking top 4 Koreans next season.
I don't
Like
know.
what I would do if I
Korean.
was like the fucking king of StarCraft, I would like, all right, here's $10,000, Jaedong. Sorry for the inconvenience, and do the same to Stardust, and then tell them like, play in Korea, man. Like that's what I would do.
All right, King of Sweden, MorroW.
You don't agree?
Well, I don't think.
Like I think it's possible to compensate them for the troubles and then change the rules.
Yeah. I don't know if that'd be the right way to go about it, because then you just openly admit that you were being retarded in the first place. But anyway, thank you so much, Destiny, for coming on and discussing the other side of the medal.
But you know, I think that's a better alternative than having them, you know, going over and cash grab and then going home
Well, I
again.
think the
Another
problem is
season.
that it's still, like, you're still dealing with IGAs and state and people like that still have exceptions to what's still a rule. Like, they're still breaking the rule. So, like, yeah, I mean, I feel like at this point, it's hard to say what would be a good decision to actually fix it in the middle of the year.
But I don't think like what is the region called? Iagus.
Southeast Asia.
Yeah, like I don't think they should have like spots in the first place. I think they should be placed in the NA place in the first place,
Well,
or
that's
some other.
Yeah.
But that's a different topic.
Yes, yeah, that's a different
Yeah,
topic.
I think there are too many regions, like Mexico, for example. That doesn't make sense to me.
Well, the South America region has 4 slots. But yeah, thank you again, Steven. Thank you again. Have a good week.
Yep, bye.
Bye. All right. Next topic. We kind of went overboard with the last one. Let me fix the freaking. Actually, let me.
I actually gotta go. It's WCS in 20 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Speaking of WCS.
Okay. Well, what are your shoutouts for the before you go?
Well, shout out to my team, Mindsanity, our sponsors, Logitech, Bizon, World of CD Keys, and Esports Clothing. An additional shout out to StarCraft Jeopardy, which is a really cool show. I'm the defending champion on that, so you should definitely come check that out. I believe the next episode's in a week or so. It'll be on Reddit. And shout out to you for having me on, desRow. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
And have a good rest of the show.
Thank you. Farewell. All right. This is gonna be chaotic.